everybody. Well, from Salt Lake City, Utah, it's Thank God I'm Atheist, a podcast about politics and religion, the intersection of the two, and just life in America during these crazy days. I'm Frank Feldman.
Sitting in for Dan, I'm Rachel.
And coming up on the show today, we're going to be talking about something that we couldn't avoid talking about. Even though when this comes out, the news, we're not breaking any news here. It's the thing that we're going to be talking about is, of course, the attempt on Donald Trump's life and the religious response to that. Obviously, that's like a week and a half old at this point. It happened after Dan and I recorded last week's episode, and we kind of were just like, yeah, we don't really have a response yet.
Well, it's pretty fresh.
It was so fresh. And so we just decided to release the show. But anyway, here we are. Here with Rachel. Thank you so much for being here, Rachel.
Yes, of course. I love it every time.
It's so much fun having you here. And so, yeah, Rachel, why don't we have you get started?
And get the ball rolling?
Yeah, with the first story.
Well, the Paris Olympics are coming up. I think when this episode is released, we'll just be almost ready for opening ceremonies.
It's literally days.
I believe it's Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a lot of Olympics. I brought a lot of Olympics related topics for us today to dive in and be topical. Okay. So there's a lot of athletes from all these countries with various faith, and they are finding that their competing schedules don't line up with their religious faith.
Oh.
There are athletes who just go to the Olympics but don't compete.
What?
Yes, there is.
How do you go to the Olympics and then not compete?
Well, I don't know if they just don't release the schedules in advance. Like you get there and then they go, the women's 400 is on Saturday at 3. And you're like, well, I'm Jewish. So, and I don't know how you work that hard and are willing to be that devout. But there are plenty of athletes who are.
Wow.
Such as Betty Deutsch, an Orthodox Jewish runner from Israel.
Okay.
She was in Tokyo the last time. But she didn't compete because the marathon was scheduled for Saturday. So she just didn't do it.
I
know.
That's sad.
It's really sad, but also
like you made it to the
just run.
And also like
you're going to sit here and say the whole time God did this for you. God gave you the strength. God gave you the skill. You're going to place it all on him anyway.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Just run. He brought you here.
If you won a medal, you'd be thanking God.
And he would have,
Right.
Just run the race. He wouldn't have put you in the Olympics if he didn't want you running.
Yeah. This is a God-given gift.
Yes.
Supposedly, in your mind, right? Also, it's not the Sabbath somewhere. Right.
Well, it's always the Sabbath somewhere. How can we possibly make the 400 meter so that everyone can compete without a conflicting religious?
Right. Because Muslims, it's Friday, right?
Right.
Obviously, Jews, it's Saturday.
Christians, Sunday.
Mostly Sunday. Some are weird and they do it on Saturday.
Yeah.
If you're Seventh-day Adventist, and you're weird if you're Seventh-day. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Well, there is a U.S. athlete, and she will run on Sunday. In fact, she just recently broke her own record in the Olympic trials, running on a Sunday, and she thanked God for it. So there's that. But then
she's Christian, and
she's
just sort of looking the other way.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Why not?
Like, that makes me crazy.
We have another runner from Tunisia. She's Muslim. And she races 300 meters wearing hijab, headdress, and modest, like down to her arms, sleeves.
Yeah.
She trains during Ramadan, so where she's not eating or drinking.
Yeah.
And she's got to pray, Yeah. I just think if you're good enough to get to the Olympics like that,
yeah,
with that's a hindrance to have to in in a sport where milliseconds matter,
Yeah.
how well would you do if you didn't have to buy into all the bullshit garb and attire? If you could just run with the shorty shorts and a sports bra, you'd probably be the best in the world because you've trained. It's like training with like one of those 20 pounds vests on you to like run uphill. And then when you take it off, you're like, this is the best thing. I'm so fast. I'm so good.
Yeah.
She probably would be great.
But she's lugging around 20 pounds of fabric.
And just no airflow. I can't imagine that they're...
though,
although Nike makes some good stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard.
And also, it is what you're used to, right? Because I remember because, everybody, I served a Mormon mission in Italy with those really hot summers in Rome, right?
And those really hot men in Rome.
Well, there was that. But Mormon missionaries are in slacks and neckties. And they would, we didn't have to we jacket or anything in the summer. And we could wear short sleeve white shirts with a tie. That's such a good look. And then, but you're also wearing your garments.
Oh, right.
And so you have this extra layer underneath. And to be honest, you just get through it. It's what you're used to. Right. But I do remember when I stopped wearing garments, what a relief that was. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, wow, it doesn't have to feel quite so hot.
Yeah.
In the summer. But I think the body also acclimates. She doesn't know what it's like to run without all this stuff on, probably. Right?
Right. I would imagine she doesn't.
She's just a good runner who wears
extra
hijab.
Extra clothing.
Running. Yeah. All right.
Well, anyway, my thought was, should and how could the Olympics even possibly accommodate? Should they accommodate religion? Oh. And how could they? Because like you said, there's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. We only compete on Tuesdays from 3 to 5. And
right. Those three are the ones that immediately spring to mind. I don't know. Maybe Wednesday's sacred to somebody. Maybe. Right? Somewhere.
Right.
I honestly think that sometimes the right answer is to accommodate. And then other times the answer is just to be secular. Right. Purely, strictly, this is a non-religious event and we don't accommodate for anybody. Right. Right. And that's one way to approach kind of with a secular approach to the whole thing. And the other one is just to accommodate, but I think it would get too complicated here. Yeah. So...
Well, you'll be happy to know.
Good for the Olympics.
I'm sure many people are wondering, how does France, with their anti-hijab policies, how are they going to... But they have made an exception. Only French athletes can't wear them, but athletes from other countries can still wear
for their own headscarves. Team. They're like,
no. Oh. But they'll accommodate everyone else. So there's at least that.
There's that, but they're not going to schedule around it.
No.
All right. Well, cool. All right. So I don't know if you saw this, Rachel. There was a bit of news this week surrounding the Republican National Convention, the RNC. Yeah. Big deal. Donald Trump is surprised. He's the surprise candidate. Yeah. For the Republicans. But it was held up in Milwaukee. Yep. And it, big media event, brings lots of people in from out of town, in particular delegates, right? Yeah. For the RNC, yeah, or for the Republican Party. And so there was a phenomenon that got noted back in 2016 at the RNC, which is that there was sort of a lot of extra activity on Grindr while the Republicans were in town. Actually, statistics. Vice did an article about it back in 2016, where they actually were able to confirm some stats with some sources at Grindr that said that and for those of you who don't know what Grindr is, let's actually explain it.
Back up.
It is a gay hookup site, essentially an app, where gay men go to meet each other. You post a picture. Yeah. There's a little place for a little profile.
And it's giving you men in proximity to you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always says like how far
20 feet away.
somebody is.
2 miles away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just like a grid of photos, right? And you just scroll through it.
Photos of their faces.
There are some faces. There are torsos, among other parts of the body, and we'll get to that in a second. But so they saw a 66% increase in activity around the RNC when it was in Cleveland in 2016.
And this is from Grindr.
And these were statistics that came not officially out of Grindr, but there was a source in Grindr that gave Vice that statistic. And they were able to say that other Grindr hotspots like Times Square, Capitol Hill, Disneyland, South Beach, Florida.
Disneyland?
Oh, yeah. Huge hookup place. Gays love Disneyland.
That's true.
Right? They did not see comparable increases in user traffic at that time.
Okay.
Right. And so this was sort of a way of saying, there was an event going on in Cleveland, and it drew in a lot of men wanting to use Grindr, right? Well, so in Milwaukee, the news was that Grindr crashed in Milwaukee during the Republican National Convention. That didn't sort of meet the smell test to me. That didn't seem right. Grindr is
only a few thousand delegates.
Yeah, exactly. They're not just gonna you'd have to it would have to be basically like Mecca, right? Millions of people descending upon Milwaukee, like millions and millions of gay men all logging in, all wanting to hook up at the same time.
Right.
And then maybe you could crash Grindr.
Right.
And so I found an article from a local media outlet up in Milwaukee that had looked into this a little bit, and they were able to sort of say, no, not really.
Okay.
Right. So now what happened was, and this is the part that would be yet to be confirmed internally at Grindr, but there's like Down Detector. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
It's a website where you can go, and it's sort of user reported outages.
Okay.
And then there's like a little heat map. And so like if your internet service goes out, a lot of people will get on their phones. Like if your home internet goes out, like people will report, oh yeah, Comcast is out in this area. Right. And then you can go on and see, oh, okay, other people also are experiencing a problem. And so Down Detector did show some outages in Milwaukee at the time.
Oh.
Now, because it is user reported, it is possible that some people were having fun, right? The people were
sabotage.
A little sabotage. Like we like this story, so let's let's
pretend that Grindr crashed.
Pin it on like some hypocrisy on the RNC. But Grindr's own website did not show any sort of outages.
Okay.
And they sort of self-report outages. If an area goes down, they put it on their website and you can track it. So Grindr officially is saying that they were up and running 100% during the RNC. So there's a little bit of, I don't know exactly, like maybe it did go down a little bit for some people. I don't want to just like assume that there was some sabotage. But Grindr's not saying that there was.
Right.
It is a juicy story though.
Yeah.
And one that is hard to resist. And so there were some details that did come out in this story that I thought were kind of fun. They did talk to an unnamed Grindr user, probably the writer's brother or somebody. It's like, hey, Ted, you get on Grindr all the time, right? What did you see? Was it up and running? And while whoever this was had nothing to say on that, they did say that typically you might encounter 10 users sort of in an area in Milwaukee at any given time that have a blanked out, that just didn't post a picture at all.
Sure.
These are like the truly anonymous ones, right? And he said that when he got in, he went on during the RNC, and it was just a sea
A lot of
photos.
people.
He said he
Wow.
stopped counting at around 50.
Oh, whoa.
That there were just tons and tons and tons of like obviously people from out of town.
Yeah.
Or not obviously from out of town, but people who were wanting to be anonymous.
Yeah.
And so there definitely was an uptick in activity.
Yeah.
Which, is really disheartening because if these are actually like sort of out gay men, right, attending the RNC
that's one thing.
or is it just, Lindsey Graham?
Yeah, it's not out men.
And his 50 accounts.
Yeah.
surely one of them will catch someone.
Poor Lindsay.
But one of the things that really fed the added fuel to the fire about Grindr and the RNC was there's this on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. There's a political satire account that posted a supposed quote from a Grindr executive saying that the Republican National Convention is, quote, basically Grindr's Super Bowl.
Wow.
And this had over 50 million views as of a few days ago when this article was written. And even George Santos, remember George Santos?
Yes.
The
famous con man, gay Republican.
Former Republican New York congressman. He was expelled from Congress because he's a shitbag.
Yeah.
And he fell for it. He was like, so Grindr executives are calling the RNC the Grindr Super Bowl. He posted on Twitter, let me tell you something. Just come out of the closet, boys. Come on, it's fun. You can be gay and conservative.
I mean,
you can.
Yeah, I agree with him. Just come out.
Come out. It's fine. Stop being hypocrites.
Yeah.
Right? Clearly there's a bunch of you.
Yeah.
So come out.
Yeah. And change your
maybe
party.
make life a little bit better for the rest of you conservative gays.
Yeah.
Who,
absolutely.
I mean, I have a hard time, like the whole log cabin Republican thing. I have a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Sure. But at least they're
out.
authentic.
They're open. Yeah. These guys.
They're not writing hateful party platforms.
Yeah. These are guys who got away from their wife for the weekend.
Yeah. They had a chance to escape the family life.
Yeah. And they probably know, like, I want one of these other blank ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, gross.
So gross.
Creepers. All right. My turn for a story.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Back to the Olympics. Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Has an Olympic team comprised of 6 people, 3 men, 3 women.
Oh, okay.
But the Taliban will only recognize 3 of them, which...
Guess which 3?
Guess which 3. So Afghanistan's entire Olympic committee, whoever organizes and chooses which athletes get to go to the Olympics, they're all in exile. All 5 of the 6 athletes live in exile.
Wow.
And they kind of just decide, we are Afghanistan. We represent Afghanistan. The Taliban doesn't get to tell us what we can and can't do.
Right.
So they're going to the Olympics with the red and green and black flag of Afghanistan.
Okay.
And the Taliban is not having any part of it. They're not going to recognize the female athletes. And even if the female athletes win, they're not going to recognize their win.
Okay, great.
Currently in Afghanistan, this is Atal Mashwani, the spokesman of the Taliban sports people, says Afghanistan girls have stopped sports. And when girls don't practice sports, how can they go on a national team? Like that's logic because you can tell them they can't, but they can still be athletes.
Guess who's still kicking a ball in the yard?
Yeah, exactly. So I love these women. I'm going to say their names because I think that we need to watch for them in the Olympics and root them on. So 2 of them are sisters.
Okay.
They're cyclists.
Okay.
Yolduz Hashimi and Fariba Hashimi.
Okay.
And then there is a sprinter, Kimia Yusufi.
Okay.
These Hashimi sisters, they're so cute. They got on a bicycle for the first time as mid teenagers.
Okay.
Because they came from even when Afghanistan wasn't under Taliban control, they were in like a conservative province. So they couldn't ride bikes, but they kind of heard of a bike race that was happening in town.
Okay.
And they would disguise themselves and wear like men's clothes, and they won their very first. The oldest sister won the very first race she ever did.
They yentled their way.
They yentled into cycling.
A bike race.
So they're now like in their early 20s. They've only been doing this for like less than 10 years, and they're at the Olympics.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm so proud of these girls, and I hope that they kick ass.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Papa, can you hear me?
Papa, can you see me?
All right. I also, interestingly enough, coincidentally, have a Afghanistan story, Rachel.
Yeah.
And this one has to do with God, the fucking Taliban. They have very quickly after taking power, back when the U.S. left, the Taliban they went right back to their shitbag ways.
Yep.
Right. Of course they did.
Yep.
Even though they were like, oh, we're going to be a kinder, gentler Taliban.
Women will learn things.
Taliban 2.0. Nope. They're the same old shitbags that they always were. It's just that people now have camera phones, right?
Oh, right.
Or cameras on their phones. And so there's actually video of their hypocrisies now, including some video that recently escaped Afghanistan of Taliban leaders and militants, I guess, police, whatever you want to call them, dancing to music, both of which are banned.
Oh,
right. And the dancing, like, honest to God, one of these looks like it could come out of like a musical.
Let me see.
Like it's sort of, it looks staged. Like there's this truck in front of like this
and they've
colonnade.
got like guns in their hands.
Yeah. And they're dancing around, and I watched the video, and they are dancing.
Really?
Oh yeah. This is not like they caught somebody in sort of a swishy
and
little
they're
walk.
Celebrating.
No, like
they're partying.
These guys are partying. Like this is a big fucking deal, whatever they're celebrating.
Oh.
And yeah, the video shows them swaying and twirling with guns. One of them looked like, I don't think it's what we're supposed to call them, but like the whirling dervishers, I don't
know what that is.
The guys in like Turkey that would just like spin around with like their clothes, their whatever robe they were wearing, like sort of poofing out.
Yeah.
Spin, 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 spin. One of them was doing basically that.
Oh, wow.
Like through the crowd of like other guys who were like doing like clearly traditional dance. Like they sort of knew the moves, right? Oh. It was like La Macarena, but Taliban-y. Or more, not Taliban style, Afghani. Right. These are Afghanis. These are these are people from Afghanistan. Dances. These are and the article sort of points out that like because of this ban, the Taliban goes around publicly beating musicians and humiliating musicians, and they're intentionally trying to put an end to this cultural expression, right? Yeah. And it is an incredibly important part of Afghan culture, right? These traditional dances and the traditional music. They don't even let people dance and play music at weddings anymore. They have a set of like recitations and some religious music that is allowed at weddings if you want. They apparently they have checkpoints where they
check for tap shoes. How do you checkpoint for dancing?
Well, you do it for music.
Oh, for music.
So people listen to music in their car.
Or guitars.
Right. People play the radio and listen to music in their car.
Right.
And there's this one person that the writer of this article talked to, who said that they get stopped almost daily
Wow.
They threatened me. I'm assuming this is a guy because a woman probably wouldn't be out driving a car.
Sure.
They threatened me saying I shouldn't listen to music and should listen to the Quran instead. Last time they took me to a police station for listening to an Iranian song in my car. They slapped me in the face and said they will hold my car for 3 weeks. But this person just keeps back, like, it's just like not going to be deterred.
You can do both. You can study the Quran and on the same day listen to music.
Yeah, why not? Also, I think you could also listen to music in your car and as you're pulling up to a checkpoint,
turn it off.
Right? But this person is like, fuck you,
yeah, he's
Taliban.
testing. Yeah, he says no.
Fuck you, slap me in the face. Right?
Yeah. I'm surprised that they're not just like locking him up.
At this point, I know. But a brave soul nonetheless.
Seriously.
Yeah, they're the Afghani people are living through.
So then
horror
who we don't know who recorded them dancing.
No, but
These
you
officials.
can actually see in there's a I'm showing Rachel.
Oh yeah,
a
someone
screenshot.
has a phone out.
Somebody,
they know they're being filmed.
Yeah, there's another person in the foreground. You can see another person filming. So these guys dancing, they're fully aware they're being filmed. There are multiple people filming. The article said that these dances will sort of break out amongst these guys all the time.
Really?
Yeah, and there's actually a lot of these videos that have been circulating around.
This?
Well, it has to do with the difference between the leaders who are psychopaths and the followers, the militants who, I don't know, it's just their thing. I don't know exactly how this works, you know, but they don't fully believe to the same extent that their leaders do that the music and the dance should be outlawed. But these same thugs, I'm sure, are going around.
Yeah, they're beating people.
Beating people
of course.
up. Yeah.
Fucking hypocrisy.
Yeah. So.
Assholes.
It's a rough world.
Okay. More Olympics?
Please.
Okay. Well,
I love the Olympics.
I do too.
Actually, I have a funny thing about the Olympics.
What?
I love the idea of the Olympics more than I enjoy watching the Olympics.
Yes.
Right? Like, I love that it's happening. I'll watch the opening ceremonies.
Of course.
And I'll tune in. I'll see what's going on.
Yes.
But I'm just as baffled by a lot of it as I am by any sport that's on TV.
Yeah.
Right?
I like to tout myself as like the most knowledgeable sports follower that you know who doesn't actually watch sports. Because I know like what happened at Wimbledon. Like my morning coffee and headlines. I'm just like keeping abreast of who got traded in the NBA today. But I don't actually watch any. Yes.
Really?
So I know about sports. I enjoy knowing about sports, but I don't ever watch it. I don't enjoy watching sports.
Wow. I learned something about you today that is blowing my mind.
Really? You knew this.
I know that you know some things about sports.
Game and I was like,
didn't know that you were like
Steph Curry. This is very exciting.
Right. But like the whole like, well, yeah, I know who won Wimbledon. It's like, oh.
That's funny.
Wow.
You didn't you didn't keep up on Wimbledon at all. It's a very exciting event. Anyway, no, I'm the same. The Olympics, I really don't care. I want to watch the opening ceremonies, but I'll just pay attention to who's winning stuff, but I won't watch it.
You won't actually watch it. All right.
No. Well, there is something really fun going on during the Olympics. If you're a Catholic, there is going to be the Paris Holy Games.
This is a shadow event.
It's a shadow event running the entire time throughout the Olympics and then the Paralympics afterwards.
Oh, okay.
The big event, the Archdiocese of Paris and the French bishops, they've decided that because there's this huge influx of millions of people coming to their city, they might as well take advantage of it.
Sure.
So they have planned days and days of fun events. Such as
they're so fun.
Concerts.
Oh.
Masses.
Oh, mass?
Marathons. 7 marathons between different cathedrals.
Really?
26 miles you run from one cathedral to another.
Really?
There will be a soccer tournament amongst priests. And
That's going to be so much fun.
if you saw the posters for it,
They're very nice.
It makes you think you're going to like a rave.
Yeah.
They look like this is a party about to happen.
Yeah.
But it's really just Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. It's going to be a party. Yeah.
I mean, the sideshow for the Olympics, if you're in a city where the Olympics are happening, is kind of fun.
Well, we've been in a city where the Olympics happened.
Yeah, and
the
Olympics
party is
are coming
fun.
back.
Yeah,
actually.
it seems inevitable.
Yeah.
They didn't decide yet, but
so the 24th,
We'll
are
find out.
announcing, and
Seems
there's nobody
done.
else contending for the
seems like
34 Olympics, so they're
well,
coming back. So.
as we can attest to being in a host city during the Olympics, it is a party. It is fun. Everywhere you go, there is something fun. And the last fucking place I would be caught dead is a Catholic cathedral during the Olympics. There's no way in hell you could get me to go to a mass. There's many masses.
Right.
Their posters are like many masses every day.
Right.
No, thank you.
Many or mini? Mini?
Manny.
Mini, masses?
I think they're masses, not mini masses.
Oh my God. Massive masses?
Massive masses. It's going to be so fun. It's Holy Week.
Well, I mean, assuming, that the world is truly arriving,
I guess
there
you
will
should
be a lot
take
of
advantage.
Catholics
But they are making themselves out to be a lot more fun than they really are.
Than we know they actually possibly be.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's all I got for you guys.
All right, cool. Well, I have some good news.
Ooh.
Let's end on some good news.
Yes, please.
Not that yours wasn't. I'm excited that the Catholics are
Holy
doing
Games.
something fun. Why not? I honestly couldn't care less. But all right. This is a story about the Satanic Temple.
Ooh, my favorite.
Yeah, we love the Satanic Temple. They do good work.
Yep.
Apparently, they were trying to do some good work in the Memphis area, where the Memphis Shelby County Schools interfered with their efforts to do some after-school programming. They have their after-school Satan program. They like to throw
Community building
with
Satan's help.
They were trying to do this at Chimney Rock Elementary.
Okay.
I mean, when they go for it, they really go for it, right? They're after school Satan at a high school, shocking to Christians. After school Satan at an elementary school,
horrifying.
Holy crap.
Yeah, their heads are exploding.
Yeah. And so some people at the Memphis Shelby County Schools were outraged. And so they were trying to charge Satanic Temple higher rent than they would charge other groups that were doing after school activities. There's some nonprofit organizations like Good News Club and Christian Good News Club.
Oh, see, now you're discriminating.
And that's exactly what the Freedom from Religion Foundation had to say. They have settled with the Satanic Temple has settled with the help of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. That negotiated about a little over $15,000 settlement to resolve the suit. Largely, that's to go to pay for the Freedom from Religion Foundation's legal fees. Sure. But that's still punitive against the school board. The school board also has to pay $1 in nominal damages to the Satanic Temple. Okay. Which
I want who
comes away from this looking good?
I know.
The Satanic Temple clearly wasn't suing over money.
Correct.
Right. They just want the acknowledgement of $1 damages. Yep. And then they did sue to be part of the settlement would be that they were refunded some fees that they had paid.
Yeah.
So $196.71 will be going to the Satanic Temple to refund them for some rental reservations that were improperly levied against them. So, so that's great. That's great news. We always love to hear about both those organizations doing their good work out there.
Thank God for the Satanic Temple.
It's so funny that that's what it takes to get a lot of these school districts to do what's right.
Yeah.
Or city councils or whoever it is that they're going after. But it does. Like it's too bad that a bunch of atheists wouldn't be able to get any traction.
Yeah.
Although, the FFRF does definitely sue and put people on notice and whatnot. But when you involve the Satanic Temple,
when you put it in a religious context,
you're able to essentially bait these school districts into doing something wrong.
Yeah,
that's what the Satanic Temple is doing.
This is how lawsuits work. You have to get someone to do something wrong first.
And what it's doing is it's putting all of the school districts on notice. Like every time one of these things happens, the superintendents, they all hear about this stuff, and they all know a little bit more what consequences could come their way if they decided to be dicks.
They knew they had to allow the Satanic Temple to have their after school program.
Right.
They knew that much.
Right.
But then they were dicks and thought like, well, let's charge them more.
Yeah.
It's like,
we'll just make it difficult for them.
Right ahead. That's actually what they wanted you to do.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, if you'd like to respond to any of the stories that you've heard so far on the show, we would love your feedback. You can email us at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com, or you can call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There's more show coming right up. All right. Well, Rachel, Dan's normally the one who does like correspondence.
Yeah.
By way of like email and whatnot. And so we will let the email sort of wait till next week.
Of course.
But we did have a voicemail come in from a listener. And since I normally tend to those, we're going to tend to it.
Let her roll.
This is coming from Steven. And he explains himself, I think, well enough. I don't need to set up much, but he has a question sort of for us. So let's have a listen.
Hey, Frank and Dan, this is Steven calling out of Florida. Just a little bit of background. I work in wildlife conservation. I've run into a few instances where I find it difficult to get fellow atheists to care about wildlife conservation or just animals in general. I find it a bit shocking because it seems like when a lot of people leave religion, they come to humanism, but just kind of the extra step there about getting to care about animals just feels lost sometimes, especially with certain species of animals that, society's inherently already kind of negative towards, like snakes and spiders. I guess I was just curious on your guys' opinion on, in the same way that I think atheists should extend their beliefs not just into this belief in God, but also the secular humanism. Do you think that they should also kind of care about wildlife conservation? So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting perspective that you feel like you don't get a big response from atheists.
Yeah.
On wildlife issues. I mean, I don't know. I think Stephen kind of says it right, which is there's sort of secular humanism, which is something that a lot of atheists do sort of get to that point.
Yeah.
And arrive at sort of finding sort of their moral and ethical framework within sort of humanism. But I don't think that that's necessarily always the case.
It's not the case necessarily.
You know, if you draw the Venn diagrams here, right? Like secular humanism is a smaller circle than atheism.
Of course.
And I just think that, like, you know, there is just the one requirement to be an atheist, right? Which is I don't
Just
believe
be
in God.
atheist. Yeah,
It's not believing in God.
And there's a lot of people under that umbrella. Various people of all different other.
And we come
ideas.
to different conclusions about things, and it's one reason why I think it's really we're an unwieldy group, right? Like if you think of it, there's never really going to be an atheist voting.
We'll
bloc
never be
in
organized
America.
enough.
Yeah, like
for
there's a lot of differences. I think though, Stephen, you probably with our listeners probably find a lot of sympathetic ears and similar, like-minded folk. Like I think since, typically Dan and I think do take kind of a secular humanist approach. I know I care about wildlife.
I'm with you 100%, Stephen. I think all the animals, not snakes and spiders, though. I know you're going to not like me for that, but fuck them. But all the other animals, especially for conservation, I think it is
But you understand that snakes and spiders are important to the ecosystem.
They have to be around,
and should be protected and
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. But if you
Get 'em out of
stumble
my
upon,
house.
there you go. Yeah.
But yes, I don't want them all dead, I guess. I think it's the religious background that I have, and I think probably a lot of your listeners have, is that we don't have a lot of control over this. God is going to come. There'll be a second coming, and this is all out of our hands, and God's going to take care of it all, right? And he'll save us from global warming, and we don't have to solve the crises because God's in charge of it all.
Right.
And so when you leave that faith or that concept, and you have to take control of the outcome of the planet and the species. Yeah. And so to me, it is a natural progression from religion to conservation. Right. So I'm with you, Stephen. I get it. But I think you're right, Frank. Getting atheists as a whole organized is that's a task.
It's, because again, there's the one thing that we all agree upon. And it's the thing that makes us atheists. Yeah. And then from there, it's just however you go. Now, I agree with you. I agree with Stephen. Like there's sort of a logic that I have followed, right, to get to my worldview, which is I want to protect the planet. I want to protect I'm concerned about global warming and I'm concerned about, the humane treatment of animals. And I'm not a vegetarian, right? I haven't taken that step. I did at one point. I was a vegetarian. And then I sort of realized that there's just so much cruelty and suffering in the world that what does it fucking matter that I don't eat some meat. And I know that's probably a pretty fucked up perspective, but
you can still eat meat and make better choices about where you get meat. Exactly. You can still choose things and
exactly. And I do to a certain extent. I get the Harmon's brand chicken. And I have purchased the Mary's chicken, but God damn it, that's expensive. Have you ever gotten that expensive stuff? Holy crap.
There's a brand of eggs that are supposed to be really good that I've bought. I think they're called Happy Eggs or something. They actually made me throw up twice. 2 different times I bought them.
Wow.
I can't eat. I have to have caged eggs. I don't know why.
Too much
endorphins in the eggs. If they're
too much happiness in those eggs, not enough suffering and sadness.
I guess.
I toured a industrial chicken egg production facility.
Rough.
And it was now, and it's a brand that you'll find here in Utah, the Oakdale eggs.
Oh, yeah.
I've been up to Oakdale. Now, they didn't show us their caged section, right, which is about half their farm. Ooh. But they took us through the non-caged area, and that's the ones that I buy. Yeah. And those chickens, they seemed fine.
They're fine.
It was a huge operation. The chickens were just hanging out.
Oh, good.
They were doing nothing.
Not pecking each other's eyes out.
They let them out of the cages, and they just sat there, right?
Okay.
And so, they'd been specifically bred to be, to not peck each other's eyes out. Off? No.
Oh, good.
No. They don't do any of that for those. Oh, good. Those chickens. And I know that the brand does have the other side of it. And they were honest. They were like, we know you won't like the way that
you're
one
not
looks.
gonna want to go see that.
You don't want to see that.
Oh,
but
God.
This is the stuff that we do show the public. And it's like, huh, that's interesting. But that's also the problem with industrial farming.
Yep.
Largely.
Yep.
Or oftentimes. But half of it, once again, half of their operation, I was like,
and those the free range eggs aren't that much more expensive.
No, they're not. No. So, so thank you, Stephen. And, I guess, we have some people to thank.
Okay.
Some new donors, people who went to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and, clicked on the support tab. And, let's see. So we have a new, deacon by the name of Mess. So thank you, Mess. And we have a supporter that edited their membership and increased their donation, which is something you can do.
Oh, they doubled down their donation.
Yeah, they went from a deacon to a teacher. So Renee, thank you so much for doing that. If you'd like to join our wonderful supporters, just go to our website. And as always, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
Blessed be his name.
More show coming up. All right, Rachel.
Yeah.
We had something happen this last, a week and a half ago, I guess, that kind of rocked the world.
Yeah.
Rocked our worlds.
Yeah.
Had us maybe doubting and considering, is there actually such a thing as divine intervention?
Yeah.
And would the divine intervene for one Mr. Donald J. Trump? So, as everybody knows, it was impossible to miss. A would-be assassin shot at Donald Trump 2 Saturdays ago and missed killing him,
barely,
but did not miss striking him. Donald Trump's ear got hit. And in honest to God, what can only be viewed by Christians as a miracle, Donald Trump turned his head at just the right moment to have the bullet whisk past his face, strike his ear, and his life was spared.
As an atheist, it's hard to argue with someone who will make that argument.
Yeah.
I can't disagree that is miraculous.
It is wild.
If someone says God protected him, I don't have anything to say in response to that because I can't explain it myself. But I am annoyed.
I can explain it. He is, and he has a proven track record of this. He is the luckiest goddamn son of a bitch.
Because God's watching out for him.
No, I know. It seems that way, Rachel.
It's bizarre. And it's annoying that that they were given. I don't know if you watched the Republican National Convention at all, but it was that was the gist of it, was God's watching out for him.
Yeah. I saw the clip of him recounting what happened.
Yeah.
Right? And cuts to people in the audience crying and
of course
all teary-eyed about his life being spared. Which is, it's all such a fucked up narrative that, because God also allowed the gun to be shot and God allowed the kid to climb up on the barn, and he allowed, it's always just this whole it's like
the good stuff that we give God praise for.
Exactly. Right. Somebody, recovers from a cancer or something, right?
But the wildfires that are killing people in California, that's not God.
Right. But the fire skipped the one house.
Yeah. Thank
right?
God.
God's so great.
He's so
amazing.
Those are some worthy people.
Yeah. Exactly. And so it's thank you, Shooter, for giving the Christians one more
all
thing.
the fuel that they will ever need.
Yeah.
To support this man.
And this is obviously, and I do want to be really clear here that like, I would not want Donald Trump to be assassinated.
Right.
Right. Like for any number of reasons.
Right.
Much less the one reason, which is I don't want anybody to be assassinated.
Yeah, political leaders should not be assassinated.
No, people shouldn't go around shooting each other, right?
Take it that far, sure.
I'm willing to go that far. I'm willing to be like, oh, AR-15s, they're a bad idea, right? To have in just the general public's hands. So, I mean, let's honestly be really clear that, and let nobody mistake what we're saying here as like being like, oh God, well, if he'd just been shot. No. Because like, there's also like, could you imagine living in that world?
No.
Where now they're all like Donald Trump martyr, Saint Donald.
Yeah.
And
I don't want him dead, but I still fucking hate him and his policies.
Oh yeah.
I don't want him to be president. I'm still going to criticize him, but yeah, I'm actually really happy that he's not dead.
Yeah.
From this
for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just where I am. But we do get to live in that world now where God, quote unquote, God saved Donald Trump.
Thanks, God. Thanks. I got words for you.
Yeah. I mean, the degree to which I am pissed at that young man.
Yeah.
For creating this scenario for us. Like it's, and again, pissed that he decided to go shoot the president.
Yeah.
Right. Not that he missed.
Yeah. Of course.
Right. Like I want to be really clear about that. It's it's a fucked up world. Donald Trump, and he's already Saint Donald anyway. Right. Like
that's the thing. He was already their chosen leader ordained by God.
Yeah.
And this just solidifies that. They're, like I said, how do you argue with them that he's not chosen by God? It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, so what's the takeaway here? Like, what do we, like, do you have anybody, you don't have anybody in your life that would be thinking that way, right? My parents might, I bet my parents do.
My mom might, maybe.
You know, think that, and I mean, I always, I think they know not to bring up this kind of stuff with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Good.
But yeah, like, I think that there is, like, that's obviously a new narrative. And how does that change it for us as atheists, right? And like, does it change anything? Does it change how we have to like talk about Donald Trump? Does it change how we have to like, if like this guy was saved, right? Mm-hmm. In a public way, mm-hmm. right? Like, it's on video. We have photographs taken showing mm-hmm. the bullet zooming past his
turned head.
We have the aftermath images, right? That it will be in history books mm-hmm. forever mm-hmm. at this point. And then this solidifying narrative about him as this chosen man, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you're right that there, if somebody's coming at you and they believe this, how do you,
there's nothing you could ever say.
Right. But we already faced that, right? We faced that with their belief in general, right? Yeah. It's just now that to their pantheon,
they have evidence.
We have added Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right?
They have evidence now that Donald Trump is protected by God.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like, oh, you think he is.
But the thing is, like, how, so like God saves Donald Trump, but like he doesn't save his own son, right? He doesn't.
Well, that was for a purpose. God has a plan. Don't you know how God works?
He works in mysterious ways.
There's always a plan.
But no, like he
didn't save JFK.
Right. Oh,
that was a God-fearing man.
Yeah, but also a Democrat.
That's true.
which is important.
That's
important.
True. Lincoln?
Well, but I mean, if they're honest, Lincoln was obviously in modern terms.
They are not honest about that. If there is one thing the modern Republican Party is not facing the facts on, it's that Lincoln was not a conservative.
But Ronald Reagan was spared.
True.
Right.
Yep.
Garfield was killed. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're in the weeds now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to all the ones. But the fun fact is that most of these people were all crazy. All these assassin types.
Yeah.
That it wasn't politically motivated or religiously motivated or whatever. That they've had a fucking screw loose.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy who shot Ronald Reagan was trying to impress Jodie Foster.
Oh, that's right. That's such a bizarre detail. Ooh.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like this guy, like there's all like people who are like trying to sift through motivation and whatnot. And it's just like, just stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
He had a fucking screw loose. Like you don't go and do that.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're not like if he was part of some big movement that like had political whatever, you could really point to some stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like a lone wolf going off and doing something.
Yeah.
He had a fucking screw loose.
This is why they shouldn't have AR-15s because
correct
wackadoo lone wolves do things.
Yeah, exactly. And so like stop looking for motivations. He was nuts, right? Like whatever. Like we now know he was a loner.
Thank God he wasn't Antifa or something.
Oh my God.
We'd be in a civil war
right now. He gave $15 to...
But he was a registered Republican.
I know.
So it's hard
I know.
to say.
This is that whole looking for motivation thing. And it's...
No, there isn't any.
He's just
he was disturbed.
Kid, and that's all it needs to be. But thank you so much for making all of our lives more difficult. But fortunately, Trump did not really see a bump in the polls because of it. They've had a hard time attributing. Like normally in these kind of scenarios, you would expect the person to get
support,
a serious bump,
right?
And whatever bump he did get amongst certain, all it did was the people who already believed he was Saint Donald.
Yeah,
they're still just they're actually like.
Well, that's good news that no one has been these fucking undecided voters, but as long as none of them like decided.
I don't know how you're undecided. Like
I don't either.
You always hear about them. I've never known one. Never in my life have I known somebody who was like, I just can't decide between these two.
I've known them, and I just say to them, stop it.
Right.
You're a smart person. Knock it off. Knock it off. You're smart.
Right.
Do the math. And that usually embarrasses them enough. I mean, I don't see them fill out their ballot.
Right.
But they at least stop
You're
going,
still sitting there in the
I
polling
don't know.
booth going, no.
They at least stop pretending like.
Oh, they do stop pretending?
Yeah, we're not. Yeah.
Stop. Are they like, oh, you're right, Rachel?
Yes.
I'll just vote for your candidate.
They don't say I'm going to vote for your candidate. They're like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. I honestly, I've known people who were like third party voters. Right?
Yeah.
Who are like, and you're like, listen, this is an important election.
Yeah.
You can't like I know what you're thinking here.
Yeah.
Right. I hear you.
Yeah.
I'd like the whole thing to burn down.
Sure.
Right. At this point, because it's all ridiculous. But you can't be the one who like lights the match to burn the thing down. It's just if it burns down, that's just
no. That's not how revolutionaries think, Frank. You're clearly.
I don't want a revolution. I do not want a revolution.
That's okay. Some people do.
Right, but it's too important. You can't burn.
No, not right now. I'm not being revolutionary anymore.
Right. Because like
I used to be.
You burn down the house over this one and let Donald Trump become the next president.
Yeah.
Like
the stakes are too great this time around. I know they keep saying that, but it's so true.
It's true, and I just don't know how we recover after Project 2025 gets its hands on the country.
Well, and Donald Trump's not leaving office next time.
Right. And also probably more importantly, even if he did, do you think JD Vance would ever certify an election for a Democrat?
No.
No, of course not.
No.
So
not if Trump tells him not to.
Yep. So, so there's that. All right. Well, everybody, I hope we've cheered you up. America is not in a good way. We're struggling, but I think we're keeping our heads slightly above water. We're treading. If we can just keep Donald Trump out of the White House, which I don't know.
There's still hope.
There's still a little bit of hope. And also, like, between now and when the show comes out, considering everything that's on the table, anything could be going on.
Yeah.
So, So let's just try to get through it together. Let's remember what the stakes are. The stakes are not Biden, right? Or Trump.
Not at all. No.
It's
democracy.
Democracy
is the stakes.
And I read an interesting one last thought. I read do you know who John McWhorter is? I love John McWhorter.
Yeah.
His newsletter, this last one that came out, he was talking about how Democrats should stop using the word democracy.
Okay.
When talking about Donald Trump. And he went into this whole thing about how it's the word has just been weakened. Like what do you mean that he's a threat to democracy? He's like we need to if democracy means people power, right? If you break it down into the Greek,
then he's
people power.
Then that's democracy.
Then you need to talk about how Donald Trump is a threat to the people's power of self-determination, right? That he wants to retain the power for himself. He wants to take the power from the people, right?
Okay.
And it's John McWhorter. It was probably phrased a little bit.
Okay, I see.
He set it up a little bit more than that and whatnot. But like just the idea that like sometimes we get stuck in these lofty Greek words in English.
I don't know that we do. I really don't think people are unpacking the meaning of demo and crossi. I don't think anyone's going like, what's the Greek origins and how do we defend that?
Right. But that's what he's saying is because we don't, it's taken on its own nebulous meaning. Oh. Right. And he's saying, so if what the Democrats mean is the actual definition of the word, right? And not whatever's sort of floating out there in the ether because we don't really connect with these old Greek words the same way that we do to the core English words, right? Okay. Like power
of
and
the people,
right? That sometimes you need to look at the definition and say and use those words effectively. Right? Yeah. Anyway, be thinking about that, people. When you talk about Donald Trump,
think about,
is he a threat to democracy or is he a threat to, the people's power?
A government responsive to the people.
To the people. Yeah, that's accountable to the people.
Yeah.
Is it Lincoln's idea of a government of the people, by the people, for the people? Probably got those in the wrong order, right? So anyway, we strayed a little from, I guess, atheism.
It's your show. You do what you want.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you're well. If you'd like to respond to anything that you've heard on the show, please send us an email, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Thanks again, Rachel, for sitting in. You can also support the show by going to thankgodimatheist.com/donate. Music for on the show is provided by the Red Rock Hot Club and by Gordon Johnston. So thank you to both of them. And the show is edited by Roger Gowdy. Thanks so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank God I'm Atheist is a production of TGIA Media, LLC, copyright 2024, all rights reserved.